We're now live on YouTube and we'll get started in about a minute. Okay, Matt, the floor is yours.
All right. Howdy, everyone. February 2026. Hard to believe. This year, I mean, we've only went through 1 month, but it seemed like it was in fast forward, at least for me in the UK Ag Weather Center. Very active month overall in January. We had the snowstorm. It was actually warm earlier in the month and it got super cold. It stayed somewhat pretty cold here to start February, but we do have a surprise around the corner as we head through the rest of the month. Just before I get started, I want to say the groundhog came out was a couple days ago. We have some unfortunate news. Groundhog says 6 more weeks of winter. So, in my eyes, if you have a slow cooker recipe for a groundhog or whatnot, that'd be nice to have right about now. But not a big fan of that forecast. But neither here nor there. So, all right, moving forward. So, same old regarding this webinar, presented by the Kentucky Climate Center at WKU in partnership with the National Integrated Drought Information System in coordination with the Midwest Drought Early Warning System. Production delivery through a variety of partners here in the UK Ag Weather Center, of course, at Kentucky Mesnet, Kentucky Climate Center down at WKU, and Chip Zimmer with the Division of Water over in Frankfurt. Our next scheduled webinar is going to be March 5th, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. And we are recording this and it's going to be available on YouTube. So live streaming over that way. Just to get started, all the talk here recently has been about the cold weather in Kentucky, the Arctic air moving into the region, all the snow and ice we've gotten recently. This is a picture or a loop of satellite imagery, visible satellite imagery. So we need the sun to really reflect off the clouds. And there's something on this particular image. You see the clouds moving. There's also some white stuff that's not moving. So that's the snow cover. And we still have a ton of it on the ground here in the state of Kentucky and even moving north into the Ohio Valley region. So this particular winter storm, everyone will have their own opinion. I'm sitting here in Fayette County, and honestly, it's been pretty terrible here. I've lived in Fayette County since 2012, and I don't ever remember seeing the roads this bad, over a week after the event. That's fine. Road crews have been putting all their sweat and their time into these roads. It was just Mother Nature dealt us a really bad hand. And in this situation, originally, it looked like we were going to see a big time snowfall event. And it really didn't end up like or that way unless you were in the northern bluegrass, Boone County, Kenton County, you name it. But we'll get a little bit more into that in the next slide. Outline, again, same as always, recent conditions. We'll go into some impacts, a little bit on the ag side, look at the U.S. drought monitor. We have seen 3 straight months of below normal precipitation now. Going into the outlooks, this is a little bit of a surprise considering where we've been, but it does look like we're going to warm up pretty significant pretty significantly. I'm getting tongue twisted here. Pretty soon. And then we'll have a questions and discussion session at the end. But a couple pictures here. Winter weather keeps on coming. The Kentucky Mesnet posted this picture up top on their Twitter page and Facebook page. Recently, we had a winter weather advisory Tuesday evening up in the Bluegrass area. This was a very quick hitting system. But unfortunately, I was driving home right in the middle of it. And these quick hitting systems can be just as dangerous as maybe the major winter storm we saw about a week and a half ago. But with these quick hitting bursts of snow, it can cause whiteout conditions and can make driving very dangerous. So, even though I got a four-wheel drive and whatnot, I had to pull the speed down to 15, 12, 20 miles per hour at times just because I couldn't hardly see going home to my house. So this bottom picture was taken from David Calvert, maybe pronouncing that name wrong. I apologize if I am. But I took this from the NWS Louisville event page for this winter storm. And this is down in Scottsville, Kentucky, Allen County. Looking around the area, Allen County was more so impacted the most by ice accumulations. This picture here, taken from Scottsville, you look down farther to our south, I would say we were somewhat lucky in a way because you see the pictures coming out of Nashville. It wasn't great. I was looking at the county down there. I think it was like 90% of that county was out of power at one point during this winter storm. So moving forward to this winter storm, I'm going to try hiding this video panel real quick. There you go. Winter storm, January 24th through the 26th. It was quite the system. It was quite the system for meteorologists to predict. Leading up to this system, I was looking at all the models. NWS was doing the same thing. Broadcast meteorologists were doing the same thing. And it really looked like 2-3 days before the event, we were going to see a very large, heavy band of snow move through the area. There was literally maybe one model, maybe two. Feel free for the other meteorologists on this chat to chime in. But I feel like 2 or 3 days beforehand, maybe the NAM was the only one that was showing this warmer air infiltrating to the bluegrass state to the extent that it did. So as a meteorologist, it's kind of hard to go by that when you just have one model picking up on that scenario. But lo and behold, that NAM model kind of won out at the end of the day. And the GFS, the Euro model, the HER models, they kind of picked up and got closer to that NAM as we got closer to the event. And these snowfall totals over on the right is ultimately what happened. That heavier snow band was really pushed up north into Indiana and Ohio. The highest accumulations were around 10, 11 inches. Again, Boone County, Kenton County, up there in the northern bluegrass. And those really decayed as you went south, southeast across the state. Some folks only getting in on what, 2-3 inches across that area. I'm going to check this chat box. Shane said the NAM went from outlier to grand champion of the event. So he was looking at similar information as what I was. I know KSR, Kentucky Sports Radio, I was getting kind of a laugh out of it. They had a charitable forecast, and everybody was going high on their snowfall totals for Lexington and Louisville. But, during these events, winter weather is one of the hardest things to forecast. And what makes it hard is we have to take into account the temperature profile up through the entirety of the atmosphere. So it's not all about what the temperature is at the surface. We had Arctic air in place. But if you go up, maybe a mile or so up in the atmosphere, these snowflakes are falling. They get into a warmer layer. It's called a warm nose aloft. And depending on how strong that warm layer is, the temperature in that warm layer and how thick it is, it could either partially melt that snowflake or it's going to fully melt this snowflake. So this map over here in the lower left-hand corner, it's a little hard to see, but looking at isotherms and whatnot through here, lines of equal temperature, But some of these isotherms above freezing were getting well into Kentucky. So again, either partially melting that snowflake or fully melting that snowflake, it drops into a layer of sub-freezing air near the surface. And if it's partially melted, it will fall as sleet, the ice pellets. If it is fully melted, falls in that sub-freezing air, it's going to freeze on contact as freezing rain. So northern half of Kentucky, not as much in the way of freezing rain, I should say, along the Ohio River. And that increased as you went farther south, southeast into the Bluegrass State. Now, I'm going to change this real quick. That's the snowfall totals. I had about 5 inches at my house in Georgetown. Oh, I got to click back on here. We also had incorporated into that was about 2 inches of sleet. And we had some freezing rain on top of that. So this is a picture, upper left-hand corner, of the slabs of ice I was pulling up from my driveway on Sunday, right after this event ended. That was probably the toughest workout I've had in quite some time. You know, you're working on it for 2 hours and you feel like you didn't hardly get anywhere. But if you didn't get it up now, at the end of Sunday, we had that Arctic air filtering into the region right afterwards, and everything just solidified like concrete. And again, this goes back to our roads here in Fayette County currently. I'm sure a lot of folks across the state are in the same boat, but after this event, road crews, as is always the case, you're focused on the interstates. You're focused on the main roads in your particular county, getting those clean so people can maneuver at least a little bit. But it took a lot longer with this storm to get the roads cleaned up. And we still have a lot of roads in our neighborhoods in Fayette County that don't look great at all. Now, again, that's nothing against the road crews. This was just the sum of Mother Nature giving us a bad hand. This was, again, the snowfall followed by sleet, followed by freezing rain. The freezing rain kind of acts as glue, and you get these slabs of ice, and it's just hard to get it up off the road without continually treating it day after day after day after day. So Fayette County schools, we are now well into week 2 without without the kids able to go to class. And I'm interested personally to see what happens next week, because I was driving in this morning. I was looking at some of these neighborhood roads, still look really bad. And I don't know, at least in my personal view, it's going to be really hard to put a bus on those roads. So it will be interesting to see, but this is becoming an issue across much of the state, just kids not able to go to school. This is something Kentucky doesn't deal with very often throughout the year. But ice accumulations were highest across south central Kentucky and southeastern Kentucky. These are actually flat ice accumulations. You can either have flat ice or you can have radial ice accumulations. Flat ice is you go out to your patio table out back, how much accumulated there? Radial accumulations would be the ice accumulations on your power lines, your tree branches out there. So your radial accumulations will actually be less than these totals here. But still, I see 3/4 of an inch of flat ice accumulations down there in south central Kentucky, just east of Bowling Green, 0.78 there on the west side of London, closer to Pulaski County and whatnot. So even though like this wasn't we didn't get hit like Nashville, we still had plenty of impacts across the state, whether it was maneuverability, and there was quite a few people without power. So this down here, I got this from the National Weather Service in Louisville on January 25th. That's when we hit peak power outages across Kentucky. Again, most of them down there where we had the highest ice accumulations, and hit 70,000 people without power. So really bad event. It didn't impact every way in the same way, shape, and form. But overall, even though the forecast, yes, meteorologists, we were predicting a foot of snow for some areas heading into the event, and there was big changes. It was still very impactful. I've had a lot of people ask me, well, what's worse, this or a foot of snow? I would much rather have seen a foot of dry, fluffy snow as opposed to this mixed wintry weather event. So, um, so there's that. Now moving into just looking at precipitation across the state over certain time periods. Got to keep in mind these maps I'm going to show over the next few slides. It's if you take all the snowfall in place and melt it down to the liquid equivalent. So over the past week, this is valid January 29th to February 4th. We only averaged 1,500ths of an inch across the state. Not much, but whenever it falls with snow, it can add up. That winter weather advisory we had on Tuesday evening, I think we got close to an inch in Georgetown. But again, it can still be very impactful, even with such a small amount of melted liquid equivalent precipitation. But moving forward, state average over the past 30 days, top image here is looking at total precipitation. Bottom image there is looking at departure from normal precipitation. I want to preface these images by saying today's been fun, guys. I haven't had access to some data sources. So you're going to see some information you typically see. You're going to see some information that I just had to not put on here because I didn't have access to it. But in general, looking at these maps, 30-day precipitation, the highest totals were across Western Kentucky and along the Ohio River. There was 1-2 inches or so not a whole lot of precipitation or liquid equivalent over the past 30 days. We look at the departure from normal precipitation over across the Purchase area along the Ohio River. Some places are 2 to 3 inches below normal over this 30-day time span. You go over to Eastern Kentucky, looking a lot better. Of course, they got more in the way of liquid rainfall during this past event. But the focus the past couple months, maybe even 3 months, has been across the Purchase area where they've been relatively dry compared to the rest of the state. So again, keeping with that trend, this is going back 60 days. So valid December 7th through February 4th. And again, you see that dryness across Western Kentucky. They average 2 to 4 inches over that way, and that increases to 4 to 6 inches as you get across the Bluegrass region in Eastern Kentucky. Over that 60-day period, state average was 4.07 inches, which is about 3.5 inches below normal. Those deviations go in the wrong direction as you go across the Purchase in West Central Kentucky in the 4 to 6 inch below normal range. Well, thought I had 90-day on here. I must have accidentally deleted it, but we have gone 3 straight months of below normal precipitation in the Bluegrass state. We have been seeing some impacts, but it was great to see. I should hold on. Not great to see. It wasn't awesome to see the winter weather last week, but in terms of drought conditions or abnormally dry conditions, that precipitation is definitely going to help. Looking at temperatures going back through the month of January is kind of a mixed bag, but cold air ultimately won out. There was some pretty extreme high temperatures earlier in the month. This table in the upper right-hand corner came from the Kentucky Mesonet. Let's see, January 8th, 2026. There was numerous locations that hit the 70-degree mark for early January. That's crazy to see. But, we went, as you all are well aware, we went on the opposite end of the spectrum as we got into the second half of January. And at one point, there were some places that went 7 straight days or more without seeing temperatures reach above freezing. This map in the upper left-hand corner was taken on January 29th. This is just consecutive hours with maximum air temperatures below 32 degrees. I'll let you guys do the math there, but it carried on after January 29th also. 24-hour minimum air temperature in the lower right-hand corner. This was on January 27th, Tuesday morning. This is pretty well the coldest day that we saw out of this past outbreak, but there were several locations across central Kentucky that got well below zero. I'm even seeing a -10 up there. Maybe Shane can comment which county that exactly was, but overall for the month, I was checking our day in the UK Ag Weather Center. We ran about 4 degrees below normal on average across the state. It'll be interesting to see when the official rankings come out where we end up, but this hasn't been typical. Sometimes we'll have 1 month out of the winter where we're extremely cool over the past decade, but overall our winters have ran pretty warm over the past decade. So this has been a little different. I'm going to open this chat box. Jerry says Hancock County, one of our newest Mesonet stations. Awesome. How many stations are we up to now, Jerry?
86.
86 stations. That's awesome. That's awesome. So that's looking at temperatures. Going on to the impact of precipitation. Chip, are you on here at all? Maybe so.
Yeah, I'm on here.
You want to talk about, because I don't want to say these maps can be misleading, but I think as I read in some of your email updates that ice may have played a factor in how some
Yeah,
look. So maybe I'll let you take on this page here.
there's definitely some stations that are impacted by ice, but the other thing is too is when not just the stream flow itself impacted by ice, but just everything in general. If everything's frozen, there's no water going into the stream because everything's just frozen and locked up in place. So um, it's pretty common to see stream gauge tank when we're cold like this, and as soon as we warm back up, all that water that's locked up, whether it's locked up as ice and snow on the surface, if it's locked up in the soil itself, it'll all start to drain back out into the stream. So
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. I was looking at these maps. I want to give Chip the platform here, talk about it a little bit. We again have been relatively dry in Kentucky over at least the first half of winter. Now, moving forward, we'll look at the outlooks here in a bit. They look like they're going in the opposite direction, which for farmers and producers across the region, that's not something we necessarily want to see in this sector. But of course, we just got to deal with Mother Nature and some of the curveballs that it throws our way. So looking currently, this is the update of the U.S. Drought Monitor. Data for this was presented to the U.S. Drought Monitor on Tuesday, and the map was released today, this morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Looking across the United States, there's actually a good amount of drought conditions. So 70% of the United States is in the abnormally dry category or higher. 44, almost 45% of the United States is in moderate drought conditions. And we even have 20% of the lower 48 in severe drought or worse. So quite a bit of drought on this map, and some good news here in Kentucky. We're looking all right. Looking up to our north, you even see some severe drought, extreme drought as you go into the central portions of Illinois and Indiana. But southeast has been dry too. You may have seen the news. Some of those locations in the southeast, North Carolina, they just got a foot of snow recently. So something you don't typically see. This has been a wild winter at the end of the day. But zooming in closer to the state of Kentucky, overall, about 31% of the state is considered abnormally dry, most of which is out there in the Purchase region. Nice little area there in southeastern Kentucky. We have a sliver of moderate drought conditions across the Tennessee border there, across portions of western and southeastern Kentucky. But again, very minimal. That moderate drought percentage is just shy of 3%. But it has been, these numbers have improved. We go to the start of the calendar year as of January 6, 2026, 48% of the bluegrass state was considered abnormally dry. Again, we're down to 31% now. And about 5% of the state was experiencing moderate drought conditions, and we're down to south of 3% now. So this is different in addition to the warmer winters we've had recently, and we've had some wet winters recently. So seeing drought conditions in the middle of February, I'll let Chip chime in on that, but it just doesn't feel like I've seen this in quite some time. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Yes, drought monitor class change over the past 4 weeks. We've seen quite a bit of improvement, one class improvement across South Central Kentucky and Southeastern Kentucky. Over that 4 week time span, Western Kentucky has stayed the same, but Bluegrass and Northeastern Kentucky in decent shape. So looking at ag impacts from this past month, again, it was super cold at times, temperatures we haven't seen in quite some time. Livestock cold stress was going into the danger and emergency category on our forecast models in the Ag Weather Center. Saying that, animals, our livestock across the state are pretty resilient. Temperatures did drop in the single digits and even below zero at times. This map in the lower right-hand corner, I took from the USDA weather bulletin. This is looking at the extreme minimum wind chill for January 25th through the 31st. Sure, some folks were in that -10 to -20 range, but again, animals tend to be pretty resilient. I feel like the last time we had extreme cold where we had a lot of issues in the Bluegrass state was 2015. We had temperatures drop below -10. Wind chill is getting close to, I believe it was like -20, -30 at times. But in terms of livestock cold stress, the real issue is the extreme temperature swings. Maybe it's fairly mild outside. You have a very strong Arctic front move through and temperatures just plummet. Maybe that's accompanied by precipitation, falls as rain, mats these hair coats down and can lead to stress very quickly. But in this case, we had Arctic air in place already. It started to snow. Of course, some folks down in South Central, Southeastern Kentucky did get in some of that freezing rain. Unfortunately, calving season has begun for some across the state. This is one of my friends, A&R agent over in Trigg County, David here. He sent this picture on Facebook about a week or so ago. But so his calving season has started out there in Western Kentucky. But that's odd. Just got some timing there. But anyways, this will be something to watch moving forward. It is going to get warmer, so that'll help matters. But again, that brings into the question of muddy pastures again. All this is going to melt, and we got more rain on top of it. And you might start seeing more and more pictures like up there in the upper right-hand corner. This is from my friend Josh, a farmer over in Mercer County. I got kind of a kick out of this picture. So he sent me this. Apparently that hay ring was up on its side, and he came back later that evening and there was a cow stuck in the middle of it. So this reason being, you always got to go check your cows multiple times a day. You never know what fun they're going to go get into, but just looking at his pasture right there, he has a all-weather surface in place, and there's still some issues in that area. But other than that, just looking at agriculture, frost seeding is a thing right now. They're doing some research at UK in grain forages. Are you guys hearing this music on your end also? Just curious, but we're hearing something on our side. But yes, I lost my train of thought. Frost seeding, typically late February, going into early March. Looking back in past years, but based on our warmer climate during the winter months, we're taking a look, or a graduate student, I should say, is taking a look as to whether those recommended frost seeding dates need to be moved earlier in the year. of course, we're looking at the freezing, thawing of the ground surface, and that'll be something to watch. Also, there is concern moving into the growing season. Grain prices, future prices still aren't where we want them to be. 2025 was a really tough year for grain farmers across the state. Beef prices are looking very nice right now, very good. I know there's some information that came out recently this past week. I think we're looking at our smallest herd since 1961 across the United States, which that's something to say. So we actually dropped another percent compared to 2025, but that'll be something else to watch as we move through 2026. Look at the forecast. Don't have a whole lot of liquid equivalent precipitation in the forecast. We got a quarter to a half inch across the bluegrass, northeastern Kentucky. That comes down to less than a tenth of an inch across south central, western Kentucky. Very light stuff, but again, turns to snow. Like I believe we have another winter weather advisory in place. We'll see how much snow in the way of snowfall accumulations we can get. 6-10 day temperature outlook. This is that surprise I was going to talk about. We're really going to warm up next week. Thankfully, I've been waiting for this for quite some time, but it looks like it's going to continue through a good remainder of the month of February. But this is a 6-10 day temperature and precipitation outlook valid February 10th to 14th. So basically, if you're going to farm show this year, you're looking all right. I don't think we're going to have any, or we won't have any in the way of wintry weather to deal with. But again, the darker shades of red, that's higher confidence from the forecasters. We're going to see above normal temperatures. So these forecasters are very highly confident across the Great Plains region, even coming into Kentucky. We're going to see above normal temperatures over this time span. They're also confident, not to the level as temperatures, but still fairly confident we're going to see above normal precipitation over this time span also. I also want to point out, before moving to the next slide, average highs across the state for Kentucky at this time of year, the middle of February, range in the mid 40s to around 50. Average lows for this time of year, middle 20s to around 30. The lower end of that average is going to be up near Cincinnati, northern bluegrass. The upper end is going to be south central Kentucky and going out to western Kentucky. But you can get an idea. Looking at this map over on the left, it pretty solid. We're going to be in the 50s at some point next week. So 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, February 12th through the 18th. We're hanging on to those very dark shades of red. And unfortunately for me in agriculture, we do have a dark shade of green over the state of Kentucky. We're kind of in the epicenter there for above normal rainfall. So forecasters are highly confident we're going to see a round of a round of at least above normal rainfall for February 12th through the 18th. Concern is we're getting warmer. All this is going to melt. Chip was saying, it's going to turn to runoff, go to these area streams and rivers. We'll see what those look like as we head through the next 2-3 weeks. But I'm hoping it's not like last February where we have an extreme rainfall event come in and there's excessive flooding. But this is the time of year we have concern. You have this wintry weather. It all melts before another heavy rainfall event with warmer temperatures in place, and you just add that heavy rainfall on top of it. We'll watch this. Now, for the remainder of February, I added these week 3 to 4 temperature outlooks valid for February 14th through 27th. So 2-week time period, a lot can go on over a 2-week time period, but the CPC, they are looking at below normal temperatures or leaning toward below normal temperatures winning out across this area over the 2-week time period. So even though the 6 to 10 day and 8 to 14 day outlook are showing warmer than normal conditions, it's interesting to look at this and see the 3rd and 4th week in February actually trending seasonally below. So this kind of tells me maybe we're looking at another round of cooler temperatures as we get to the latter stages of February. But you see that bullseye again for above normal rainfall over that week 3 to 4 precipitation outlook also. Seasonal outlook for February, March, and April, leaning toward above normal temperatures and above normal rainfall. I'll tell you guys all the time, I'm indifferent about seasonal outlooks. It's good to see, but at the end of the day, we're always going to have our ups and downs during the months or anytime throughout the year. So we're going to have periods of cooler weather. We're going to have periods of warmer weather, periods of drier conditions, periods of wet conditions. But overall, at the end of that 3-month period, if we see slightly above normal temperatures and above normal rainfall, these outlooks are going to verify. So we'll see ups and downs, but leaning toward more so in the way of above normal temperatures and precipitation. Looking a little farther into 2026, looking at ENSO, El Nino Southern Oscillation. Currently, odds favor La Nina, but as we get later into 2026, odds are leaning toward El Nino conditions. So I'm not going to go too far into this. We'll see how this fluctuates as we go throughout the year. But the impacts of El Nino, La Nina, we typically see during the winter months. That's our focus. It can have an impact somewhat on severe weather and hurricane season, but it's really only the case whenever you have a strong La Nina or a strong El Nino in place where we can get a very solid idea of what our weather conditions or what our pattern may be like during the winter season in Kentucky. Look at the monthly stream flow outlook I guess I forgot to change this, guys, but I believe whenever I looked at it earlier, it was near normal, which adds up with what Chip was saying earlier. Once everything starts melting, these stream flows will be replenished. The monthly or the U.S. seasonal drought outlook going out through the end of April, valid from February 1st. Looking pretty good in Kentucky, not expecting any drought conditions for the start of the growing season. And even going up into the Ohio Valley, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, even Tennessee, it looks like there's going to be some drought removal likely in many of those areas. Some in the extreme category, severe category, might stick around for a while, but at least we are seeing some of those green shades across the region. Significant wildland fire potential, looking good in Kentucky for February 2026. Sorry, what was that? But February 2026, we're in the green category, actually below normal fire potential. And going into Kansas, Texas, southeastern U.S., they're leaning above normal at this time. So just to summarize, average temperature for January is 4 degrees below normal. Quite the change from previous winters. I included this table put together for the class in here about a week ago. But this is like at Kentucky's top 10 warmest years on record. And since 2011, 2012 winter season, that would be December to February, we've seen 5 of our top 10 warmest winters on record. And this is a 130-year record now. So pretty significant stuff whenever you take into account we've seen 5 of our top 10 warmest winters in the past, decade and a half in Kentucky. We've seen 3 straight months of below normal precipitation. That being said, rainfall, precipitation, snowfall, it's picked up a little bit here recently. It looks like it's going to pick up in a big way as we head through the remainder of February, looking at above normal precipitation in place. I guess we're getting some nice sound effects with this round, but agriculture in a decent spot, but we'll watch those outlooks moving forward and what happens. So next scheduled webinar, March 5th, same time. If you have any questions, any feedback, feel free to contact any of us listed here at the respective emails. And then if you do have any drought conditions to report, you can refer them to the drought monitor there. So that's what I got. I'll open up to questions. Got some chats here. We'll go over real quick. Chip, cold winters has less moisture, so not surprising that December and January are also dry. Same time, soil moisture loss is near zero when it's cold, so drought impacts develop extremely slow, if at all. So good, yeah. Okay, yeah. So there's some interesting sounds on today's webinar. I guess I wasn't the only one hearing them. Yeah, there's another one. Anyways, if anybody has a question, feel free to shout. And yeah, I'll open it up.
Sorry about the noises, man. I just figured out how to mute.
Oh man. But yeah, any questions, everyone? Does the class in here have any questions? They're all being shy, Jerry. Unbelievable. So Shane just posted a image in the chat box. The mostly frozen Ohio River in Louisville, courtesy of Jude Redfield, one of the meteorologists in the area. It's pretty wild to see this year, just how cold it's been for such an extended period of time. But there are pictures back in, was it 77, 78 of the Ohio River actually freezing over. And I see people actually walking across it. Let's not do that anytime soon. But again, it's just wild to see. It's the Ohio River looking like this is something you don't typically see.
There are a number of rivers to our north dealing with ice jams, and not terribly uncommon for those areas, but you know, it doesn't happen every year for sure.
Yeah.
I did see something about Niagara Falls being frozen again, and that doesn't happen often either.
Yeah. Huh.
I mean, looks like we had a few people get in here that wasn't supposed to be.
Okay. Well, yeah. If no one else has any questions, I'm gonna hop off here and we'll have the rest of our class, but is that about it?
Great job, Matt. Yeah, interesting month for sure.
I'm ready for warm weather.
Yeah, looks like an interesting month ahead if your forecast is right.
Most certainly, most certainly. So, well, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you enjoy some warm temperatures. I know if you're a farmer or agent on here, it may be more in the way of a headache moving forward, but we do have Farm Machinery Show. I'll be there one day next week at the Southeast Center of Agricultural or of Ag Health and Safety in the West Wing there. So feel free to come up and say hi, and we'll be weather nerds and talk about what all's going on. So, but other than that, I'll see you guys next month.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you all.
See you.